I think the exciting part of it is to know that your work can have an effect, a larger effect on the world than you can ever realize. I mean, I think that we forget, a lot of us who work in television, what an enormous impact we have on the world. Really enormous. The products that we make here in Hollywood are seen everywhere. Okay, and then these perceptions of people and how they react and how they change their attitudes and whatever. I think I'm most proudest of the fact that I think that I was part of the perception of how people perceive how black people live. Because when you watch The Cosby Show, I don't think anybody even thought of it as a black show. It was a family. And before that, it had been The Jeffersons and Sanford and Son. Now, not that those weren't interesting shows and different, but I think that when you work on a project like The Cosby Show, you really feel that you were part of something that was really quite important socially to a large, not just the U.S., but the world, and their perception of how one group of people lived, and that there had been this kind of stereotype that they were always living in these kind of low, dirty places, and all of a sudden they're living with antiques and a nice brownstone, and they were educated, and one was a doctor, one was a lawyer, and you just watched the show, and you weren't even aware of their color. It wasn't a factor. It was just a family. And I think that if you know that you're part of that, and the visuals obviously are important to that. And, the same with, kind of Roseanne was a different kind of approach to it, because how I went about designing that show was a little different approach. But again, it had, it has a lasting impact on people, because they still think about it, and they still think about the stories. I mean, Roseanne was interesting in that it was funny, but there were some subjects that they covered that were extraordinarily serious. Wife beating and, all kinds of bad stuff. But in some way, people were still keeping their sense of humor and still were able to laugh, and so that, and they were able to get through it. You know what I mean? So it had a different kind of social impact. But I think those are the things as a scenic designer, if you feel that you've helped that along visually, that you've done your job right.